Are you interested in coins? Want to learn about collecting? Did you know most cities have their own coin club? I'm Roger Day of The Better Part. Stay tuned and find out. Our guests today are Al Lowe, former president and current board member of the Cupertino Coin Club, and Harold Warren, historian and board member. We're fortunate to have Al and Harold as our guests today. Welcome to you both.
Glad to be here.
Glad to be here.
You're an expert in this subject, but I've always wondered, how do you define or what is coin collecting to you?
Coin collecting is a hobby to me and enjoyment. There are two ways of collecting coins. Some people who have a lot of money collect them for investment. I actually collect them for learning about the coins, for history, and seeing how coins were made from way back when we started in the United States, 1792 till now. And I've learned a lot historically about them because I never knew a lot of these coins even existed.
Well, that must be why you're the historian.
Right. Well, that's why they made me a historian.
Al, what about you?
Well, I started coin collecting over 50 years ago. And I started like the normal person. I looked at the coins in my change, and I started filling books of cents, nickels, dimes, quarters, and did try to find one of every year. Then I got a little bit more interested, went to the banks, and I actually bought rolls of nickels, dimes, and quarters and looked through them to fill out my collection.
So you've been collecting for 50 years. Harold, have you been about the same amount?
No. I would be a semi-new collector. I mean, when I was young, when I was a teenager, when you go to Nevada, where in those days they had silver dollars all over the place, I collected some of those. But I really didn't get into coin collecting until they started with the state quarters. So they started with those. And then I was collecting stamps, and they had the big coin shows at the Santa Clara Convention Center. And I went there, and the Cupertino Coin Club has, in front, as you enter into the club, into the show itself, has a booth where they are there selling drawing tickets and explaining things about this club. And I talked to some of the people there, and they told me about the club, so I joined from there.
So what should we know about the Cupertino Coin Club itself?
We started in 1970.
1970,
And
wow.
the idea was Frank Nielsen, our founder, was into coin collecting, and he really wanted to get the children interested. So that's why he started the coin club. We meet on Friday nights so that we avoid the other nights where kids have to go do their homework. And that's what we emphasize, is to teach the children how to collect coins.
So you have a strong youth focus.
That is correct.
Ah.
We do have youth members. We have about 10 youth members. Unfortunately, some of them, like youth, they come when they're, say, 6 to 13, then they get into other interests, and then they may come back.
When we have show and tell, if you're an adult, we hand out little tickets, and then we have a drawing, and one person may win a coin or something as for the show and tell. But for the youth, each youth that comes up automatically wins something. And we have a drawing at the end of the show. There's one automatically for the kids. So the kids usually really always get something. And they get good things too, like Mercury dimes and so forth.
Ah. What goes on at a typical meeting?
Well, you come to a typical meeting, of course you have the camaraderie of meeting all your friends and so forth like that. But we start the show with what we call an auction, where some members bring in coins or currency, whatever they have, to sell, and they're auctioned off. And then we have greetings. There maybe some new members might be coming, or people who are guests who will announce who they are. Then we have show and tell, and people get up and talk about certain coins or whatever they have to say. And then we may have a guest speaker come in, or we may have something special like a hot dog night, or we just had Septemberfest. But we always have something going on special at each meeting. And then we have a drawing at the end of the meeting where people get the tickets for the drawing, and there's certain prizes that they can get, certain coins and so forth.
Are the meetings big? How many people would typically attend?
Well, we usually have anywhere between 20 and 50 people. It just depends. Summer times are less busy and people have more other things to do. And then some meetings, like when we have a special night, like we have Christmas parties or we have Togo nights, when we have more people coming.
Togo nights, not toga nights.
No, it's September Fest, where we have Togo sandwiches. Like we just had one last night. And that we provide a whole meal, sandwiches, salads, drinks, desserts. So it's a family. You can bring your whole family there.
Are there special requirements to join your club, age or interest?
Well, actually, no, there isn't. We have them from. You just had a grandchild, and she bought a life membership for the grandchild. And what age was that?
Okay, I'm the membership chair. So we have all the way from newborns up to members that are in their 80s. And when I said newborns, we probably have the youngest newborn. My grandson was born on a Wednesday afternoon around 2:30, and on Wednesday evening we had a board meeting. I turned in his application. He was voted in, and so I think we have the youngest 5-hour-old Cupertino Coin Club member. We also have members that have been members for 30, 40 years, and they're in the 80s. So there's no age limit. We're open to everyone.
What is your grandson's favorite type of coin to collect at this point?
Well, right now he's only 2 years old, so it's Grandpa that's collecting coins for him. So he's the year of the dragon, so I'm collecting dragon coins for him.
So it sounds like you have a lot of special things for youths in your program. Is there something in particular that stands out?
Yes, the club is oriented towards getting youth into the coin collecting. And so we bring them to the meetings and so forth, and they have special things, like I said, going on for the drawings, and they get rewards for their show and tell. So get them really interested into coin collecting.
Is there a thing that they find is favorite that the kids really like the most?
Well, they always like the free drawings.
Right.
Every meeting we have free drawings for the children, and usually they get a raffle ticket or a ticket, and our membership youth member chair draws these tickets. And so they usually have about 10 to 15 prizes. If we have 5 or 6 members, they get 2 rounds of choices. And there's a whole different variety of coins, chips, medals, paper money that they can choose.
Can you tell me some more about some of the special events? You've mentioned a few already.
Well, we do have certain events. For instance, March is our election night, and April is our anniversary. So we have an election on March. On April, we have our anniversary party and our installation meeting.
And that's for the new officers?
That's for the new officers. They're in office for 1 year, from April 1st to March 31st. So that's one of the major activities we have, is our anniversary induction party.
Can people join at any time during the year? Or
oh yes, it's very inexpensive for you to join. And as I said, nobody is not allowed. It's from birth to death, shall we say.
Oh. Well, the club sounds pretty exciting. So you go on, you review coins, you do auctions. What's the most unusual coin that you've seen come into the club?
I would say unusual is sometimes a coin that's brought in where something happened in minting the coin, where maybe it has part of it cut off, or it's been what they call double dyed, where there's 2 impressions put onto the coin, or it got bent. Those is what I would call unusual.
And do you see a lot of those?
No. They're fairly rare, but they are around. And those type of coins, actually, there are books, one called Cherry Picking Coins, which says go through your pocket change, and it shows all the kinds of things that are known, different types of errors, and see if you can find one, because they're worth more than the average coin.
Wow. Al, do you have a special rare coin yourself, or an unusual coin?
Well, I've always thought about a 3-legged buffalo. I think you may have heard of a 3-legged buffalo.
Oh, I haven't.
And I have always wanted one, and I've never been able to afford it. But finally I decided I'm going to spend money, and I did buy a 3-legged buffalo a year ago. And what a 3-legged buffalo is that when the die was made, there were marks on the reverse buffalo. And so one of the mint workers decided, I'm going to make sure that the scratches were off. So in his zeal to remove all the scratches, he accidentally removed one of the buffalo's forefoot.
Whoops.
And so they didn't realize that until after many were made. So that's why if you look at the buffalo nickel, on the back of some of them, one of the front hooves is missing, or legs is missing.
This was in 1937.
I was going to ask you that, what year. So in 1937.
37 D.
1937
from the Denver Mint.
Actually, you might explain that to our audience, what the D and the other letters mean.
Yes. When the United States first started coining coins in 1793, there was only one mint, and that was in Philadelphia. But as the country grew, they needed to have more mints because it was too far to travel to go to Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually they had a mint in what they call Dahlonega, Georgia, and Charlotte, North Carolina, where gold was discovered. And there was they just basically made gold coins. And the one in Charlotte had a C for the Charlotte Mint. The Philadelphia Mint didn't have any mint mark. And then there was the first D, which was at the Dahlonega Mint in Georgia. And then they also opened a mint in New Orleans, which was an O. Then, of course, in the Civil War, those mints were closed, and they were never reopened except for the New Orleans one, which several years later reopened until about the 1890s. But now we have the Philadelphia Mint, and we have the Denver Mint, which has a D, and usually, sometimes we have, on the Philadelphia Mint, there would be a P, except on the 1 cent coin.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also have, there was, like I said, the O, but nowadays we also have, for a different type of special coins, we have a W Mint from a mint that is in West Point, New York. And
really?
Of course the S Mint, which is from right here in the San Francisco. So those are what those initials stand for, which are on the coins. There are other markings on the coin too, which are a little bit harder to see, but the designer or the engraver's initials are sometimes on the coins.
You said you do auctions. How do you establish the value of a coin?
Well, that's usually supply and demand. There are also rarities in coins, meaning either not too many of them were minted, or a bunch of them were destroyed, like a couple times there was too much silver, so they melted it, or they melted the gold, and so they became rare because there aren't that many that were left or around.
So they actually destroyed coins to get the metal back?
They destroyed, if there was too much silver, like for instance too many silver dollars, for various reasons, basically because the silver miners got Congress into making too many silver dollars to buy the silver, and finally there were just too many, and so they actually, yes, melted them down because they could sell that silver if they didn't need it here to other countries to use and so forth like that. And they do melt coins constantly.
Do you find that coins of a particular country are worth more than others? Or?
I would, well, here of course you would have to say the United States coins, I'd say, would be worth the most.
What about coins that go out of circulation? Like I know France used to have the franc, and now it's using the euro. So would that make those coins worth more, or not really?
Well, I think, as we say, supply and demand. But here in the United States, there are not too many people interested in foreign coins. And so maybe if you were in Europe, they'd be much more interested in European coins. But here, most of the people are interested in U.S. coins.
Huh.
There's also a factor is that in the United States, all coins and currency ever made is legal tender. So if you have a coin made in 1800, you can use that coin.
Really?
Or some other countries, for instance in Great Britain, where they switched to the current types off the decimal system from what they had before with the shilling and all, those shillings and so forth are no longer legal tender.
So you guys are obviously interested in the history of coins. Can coins themselves be used as a learning tool?
Oh, of course. I mean, a good example would be our state quarters. Mm-hmm. Each state made their own quarters, and there's some historical value on each coin. So if you were to collect the 50 states plus the territories, you would look at them and find out why did they put that design on that coin. It could be a person, a place, or a thing. And so they're very history. We also have what they call the presidential dollars. So that started where George Washington is going to go all the way up to George Bush. And so if you were to collect them, and that would be of interest to you. Why was George Washington? When was he president? What was he doing? And so that's another example of education. We have a show and tell in which anybody can get up and speak for 2 or 3 minutes on whatever they have. Whatever they, they may have found a coin. For instance, a person yesterday came up and said, I was at this park and I found this old penny, a 1-cent coin. And he said it was so dirty he didn't know what it was, but he cleaned it out and he found out it was a 1909 Lincoln cent, which 1909 was the very first one. So here it is. How many years later he found this coin in the dirt,
just lying
and he brought it to us and he showed it to us. That's what I think is good about the club, is everybody has a chance to come and tell us in 2 or 3 minutes, what did I find, and explain to them, why did I find it, why did I bring it. So that's why, in order to be educated, we come to the club and hear people talk about their coins.
I cut you off a little early. You were starting to say about
I
history.
was saying that the quarters also, they were issued by when each state was admitted to the Union. But just to add to what Al just said, I gave a presentation a few months ago when I had an 1821 dime. And what I did was I told, not only was this an 1821 dime, but I said, well, maybe Andrew Jackson or some great person may have had this in their pockets. I mean, just think about that. And then how many states were in the Union in 1821, and how many people were able to afford, because right now we think nothing of coins because they don't seem to have very much value, about how inflation has pushed prices up so much. But in the years when people only made maybe $200 or $300 in a year, coins were pretty valuable.
It wasn't that long ago. It was $200 or $300.
No, it wasn't. Well, it is, we don't think so at our age, but our kids think it was ancient history.
Well, we mentioned earlier that there's a coin club in virtually every city. So I imagine you go and work with others. What kind of coin club events do you participate in?
Well, I belong to a couple of coin clubs. I also, besides this one, I belong to the San Jose Coin Club. But in the Bay Area, there really are a lot of different coin clubs. And each, they put on their coin shows, each one did. Like we have a coin show which we put on every February. And I attend the shows because the shows have a bunch of dealers there which have all these coins and currency and so forth like that. It gives us a chance to go and see what's there and get maybe what we're looking for, and meet some of our other friends who are in other clubs and so forth like that. And our club also has, once a year, we have an annual banquet, and which is very nice. So that's we attend. And our club also puts on, once a year, basically, there's a grade school in Cupertino. What's the name of the grade
school?
Eaton School.
Eaton School.
Once a year we go there and talk to them about coin collections. We usually talk to the either 4th or 5th graders. And it's interesting to see that we would bring some coins, like for instance an Eisenhower dollar, and they would say, what is that? Is that a foreign coin? And it's interesting that nowadays children don't even see some of the coins. Like a Susan B. Anthony dollar, Eisenhower dollar, Sacagawea dollar, they'll say, what is that?
Right, they're not widely circulated.
Right. So that's why Fred Davis and I have been going to Eaton School for about 4 or 5 years in a row and teach them. And it's very educational to them.
It's great. Yeah. I understand there was a large coin show recently, 400 or so booths.
There was a show in Long Beach, California, I
That's
think
what I
about a
heard
week
about.
ago, that Greg went to, which really is the biggest show now on the West Coast. It used to be up here as well, but they cut down because there's shows on the East Coast and the West Coast, and they're starting to conflict. And so the dealers, if you want to get all the dealers together, you just can't have that many shows. So the one in Long Beach, which is I think 2 to 3 times a year now, is the biggest show on the West Coast. And we have shows at the Santa Clara Convention Center, which is twice a year. But there's almost a show almost every month somewhere in the Bay Area.
Right. You have coin shows that are by the coin clubs, and then you have commercial shows. And if you want to go to a coin show, as Harold said, you can probably find a coin show in this Bay Area once a month.
Once a month, wow.
And it's very good. I like to go to coin shows because I collect so many different things. And one of the things that I like of coin collecting is what I call the thrill of the hunt.
Thrill of the hunt.
Because I can go to a coin show and it's just like going on an Easter egg hunt. I know the eggs are out there or the coins are out there, but I don't know if I'm going to find them or if somebody else is going to find them before me. But by just going through all of the 40, 50 dealers, I can look through their cases, I can look through the album, and I'm sure I'll find something. And that's why I can spend hours at a coin show. In fact, my wife says, "Why do you want to go to a coin show?" And I said, "Well, because I like the thrill of the hunt."
Because you enjoy it.
Also, we get to see things that maybe we'll never be able to afford. Like I collect currency as well as coins. And some of the currency, when in the large size, before they cut down to the size we have now in 1929, had some really gorgeous pictures on them. And some, they're way up in the thousands of dollars. But you get to see those if you go to some dealers. Some of the dealers have them, and some of them have never been used. They're uncirculated. They're really in good condition. They're really beautiful.
They must be beautiful.
Yes, what we have now is just basically all the same. We've had the same pictures on our currency since 1929 or 2029. But before that, they had all kinds of artwork and so forth on currency, and it's really interesting. Wow. And then also during the Civil War, when there was a shortage of coins because people hoarded them, not knowing who was going to win which side, and there was no coins around, they came out with different types of currency. That's how the United States got into currency. But they even have currency in the small sizes as low as 3 cents.
3 cents. Wow.
But even during the Civil War, when they ran out of coins, so they actually legalized postage stamps for a short time as currency.
I didn't know that. Wow.
So you learn all these things by belonging to a club and getting the books and talking to people who are also interested, and you learn a lot of things you've never even knew before.
Yeah. Well, I understand you have a medal contest every year, even though you're a coin club. How is a medal different from a coin?
Well, the difference between a coin and a medal, a coin is put out by a government with a monetary value. For instance, cent, dime, quarter, or dollar. Whereas a medal does not have any kind of a denomination. It's really to commemorate a place or person or thing. Our Cupertino Coin Club puts out a medal to commemorate our coin show once a year. And what we do is it's open to any member of the club. All we do is we have a certain guidelines. And each member, if he decides to do it, would draw a design on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, bring it into our meeting, and democratically the whole club votes upon it. We may have anywhere from 3 to 5 or 6 designs, and each member is to choose whatever he wants. And then once that design is won, we send it to a minter. And what he does is he takes that 8.5 by 11 piece of design, shrinks it down to our 1.5-inch metal, and makes a die. It usually costs about $500 to $600 for a die. And then we look at what the die looks like after he's made it, approve it, and we tell him to go ahead and mint some coins for us. Or I shouldn't say coins, but medals for us.
Medals for you.
Right. And so then each medal costs between $3 to $4. And it's either bronze, copper, or silver. If it's a silver coin, then it has 1 ounce of silver, silver being about $20 an ounce. So therefore, the coin struck or the metal struck would be about $25.
I wondered, as we close, what advice would you give to people who want to get started collecting?
I would say come and join the club, where you have members of the club who can really teach you a lot of things about how to collect coins, and buy what they call the Red Book.
The Red Book.
Yes, called the Red Book because it has a red cover, of course. But it really has every U.S. coin ever made list shown into the Red Book, and a description, the varieties, and so forth. There are prices that are listed as for the different types of grades, but even if you had a Red Book from 10 years ago and the prices are a lot different, it's still the information they're telling you about the coin and the variety is still the same. And so it tells you everything you want to know. There's also historical information in the Red Book. It tells you about different hordes of coins, and it even has about colonial coins, which came before the U.S. government started minting coins, and about the private coins, for instance. When we had the gold rush in California, there was no mint here, and it was months or years to get to Philadelphia. So private minters actually submitted some gold coins until the U.S. established a mint here. So they're private gold coins available, and those are shown in the Red Book as well.
Great.
I agree with Harold that everything is in the Red Book. Look at the Red Book, find what you want, but the idea is collect what you want.
Right.
Don't go collect because, oh, I think it's going to make money for me in the future.
No.
Because who knows what the future is going to hold. But if you collect what you want, at least you'll be able to collect, look, enjoy it, bring it to a coin club and share it with the members, and you'll be happy with that.
They always say, read the book first, but collect the best you can afford.
Read the book, collect the best. Well, I want to remind our viewers to check out your website, which is www.cupertinocoinclub.com. And I want to thank you both, Al and Harold. This has been very informative.
You're welcome.
Thank you for coming.
It's our pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us today. Be sure to watch our programs on YouTube, Comcast, AT&T UVerse, Roku, and the Santa Clara County Library System.